Hey there, it is Tom here on the behalf of Indie Structural Productions once again, and I'm bringing you another episode of What Do You Want to Know About Guitar Building? The series that probably has the longest unnecessary name ever. But hey, nonetheless, here is this week's question, and it is to do with how to draw a guitar to scale. So basically planning out how to get everything sorted. I am going to make two videos of this because there is another question that always gets asked whenever guitar building or drawing guitars comes out, is to do with neck angle. So at what angle your neck is going to be to your body. So in this first video, I'm just going to draw out the guitar and plan it out, try and go for a sort of LP style because I haven't drawn any of those yet and I have some ideas that I want to try out. And then the next video, which will come out next week, will be all about drawing a guitar from the side, so you figure out your break angle and the angle at which your neck is going to be in relation to your body. So the very first thing that you're going to need when you start planning out a guitar is coffee, because that makes things so much easier. And then you're going to need a good pencil, an eraser, all kinds of different rulers, and probably a good place to start as well is templates. But if you're planning out a guitar that, well, if you're just planning out a guitar and you don't have any templates, then it doesn't matter. You can just plan out the guitar and make templates based off of that. But I'm going to be utilizing just a couple just to get started, mainly for the headstock shape and just to get a rough idea of a shape and then start modifying from there. So yeah, I don't think there's much to it, so let's just jump into it, shall we? All right, so the very first thing that everything is going to start from is a center line. It's very important that you base everything off of a center line. It just makes placing of pickups, placing of this, that, and the other so much more simple and easier. Now, I really hope that this is coming through somewhat. Yeah, well, I think you can actually see what I'm doing here a little bit, hopefully. It's hard to tell because I'm looking at the camera right now, or the screen of the camera, but I think I can see a line there. I think we're good. So that is our starting point. From that starting point, well, first place where I like to start is the body. So like I said, I'm gonna try and do a sort of LP style, but I'm gonna start to base it off of the Daedalus model because there's a couple of things that I want to do. One of them being the fact that it will be a little asymmetrical in shape. So, probably make that a little bit rounder. A little bit of a tinier waist. Then I'm gonna bring this a little bit more in. So when it comes to drawing guitar bodies, it is really a matter of testing things out and trying what works, whether the lines flow nicely. Might actually make that a little bit smaller now that I think about it. So if I instead do something akin to that. Yeah, there we go. Okay. All right, cool. Then I'm gonna make this horn a little bit smaller as well. And it's always good to look at things from a different angle, because now I can tell that this does not look right, but I am trying to go with something a little bit different here. So that line is wrong. I think that this part I'm gonna figure out once I have my neck drawn out a little bit, because then I'll know how it flows into that part. So I'll leave that a little open-ended, and I am going to make this a 24 fret instrument. And usually on 24 fret guitars, you'll have the part where the neck joins the body will be at the 19th fret. Now I have my frets calculated and figured out on the computer right over there. I'll put a link in the description for this page that I kind of use a lot, because often I will use a book, which is now in storage, so I can't go get it. And then from there, if I don't have the correct scale lengths that I would use, then I go and use this site. But now I'll just use this site for the time being. And it is very, very handy, very nice. You can insert all kinds of parameters and get things looking good. Now this is going to be an Gibson scale length, so 24.75. But first, let me check the 19th fret. So that's in millimeters. Yeah, that's the weird thing. I do scale lengths in inches, but because I don't understand empirical measurements when it comes to the smaller details, I will use metric, so millimeters, because I find them to be a little bit more accurate, at least in my own opinion, because I don't understand those thousandths and stuff like that. So the 19th fret would be at 418.8892. So 418, what? 418.8. So yeah, I actually managed to get that spot on right there. I'm gonna check the 24th fret is there, a little bit over that overhang. I'll give it a little bit more than that, so there, which would put a scale length at that point using a protractor. So there. Now I have a center line and my scale length, so it's easy for me to figure things out from there. 24.75 scale length, which would mean that my nut line would be here. And I know that my nut that I'm going to be doing for this will be a 43 mil nut. So 43 mil there. My end of the fretboard is here, and I'm going to put that at 56 mil. There, which then gives me my neck. Like so. So now I have my neck ready, or the basic layout of my neck, and the beginnings of a body shape, which I'm going to refine now that my neck is in place. So I know that it's going to join the body at this point, right here. So let's have a look. If I bring that out like there, maybe bring that in just a scooch. Admittedly, LP style instruments are the one type of instrument that I am not all that familiar drawing. So this is definitely a nice exercise for me as well to be doing this. Now, having your connection point at the 19th fret is not what you have to do. It is just the norm. For instance, if you had a 22 fret instrument, your connecting point would be the 16th fret. But if you have a 24 fret instrument and the 16th fret, that means your neck is going to sit in very far in the body, and it's going to be kind of hard to reach those higher frets unless you build a big scoop. Now, that is one of the things that was the case with Gaia and Scum, but that was just the client wishing for a certain look and feel. This comes out a little bit too much, so I'm bringing that in just a tiny bit. That looks kind of funky because it's so small, but in a way I kind of like it. I want to give as much clearance to reach the higher frets. So there, thinking what would happen if I would bring that in even more so I can make the horn a bit slimmer. So very slim waist, very round back end, good access for the higher frets. Make that fit the theme a little bit better, so a bit rounder, so it's a bit more balanced. And I think that is a good starting point for the rest. There we have it. So next up, I'm actually gonna do my headstock, which I'm gonna be using a template for. Now I wanna do a 3-a-side headstock, as it is common for LP type instruments to be that way. So faintly draw that on there because it is too small of a headstock right now. I want to make it a little bit bigger. Now let's say that it's going to have a Gibson style nut. Then we're going to do, so you should check out the headstock designing video that I've made already. So that will go into detail a little bit more about this process that I'm doing right now, which is basically figuring out tuner hole positions and stuff like that. So I'm going to start with 3.5 mil off the side for string spacing on the nut on the bass side, and 3 mil on the treble side. The protractor is a very handy tool in this and a must-have because it will give you very accurate results very quickly. You know, it kind of makes sense. Then this is a string spacing rule. Got this from Stu Mac, and it is incredibly useful. I'm going further away. So now I'm gonna be using my ruler here. I just marked on both sides. Line those up. So line up the nut line on both sides. And in doing this, I am figuring out straight string pull. Not something that is a must, but something I like to do quite a lot because it does improve tuning stability just a smidge, like so. Forgot to do one line, that's why it looked weird. I want to have my high E around here. I want to have my low E around here. And then it's just a process of doing the distances between all of them. So I'm going to do 30 millimeters and then joining up with the lines that I had previously drawn. Now those are very close together, these two. So I might opt for going just a little bit of an angle. Maybe around here. And around here. Now I've made a bunch of different markings here. It is very important that you take away all the marks that aren't needed. Because if you don't, you're prone to make a mistake on where things are supposed to be because you forgot which line is the one you're supposed to follow and which line is the one you're supposed to not follow. Now, this is going to be very different. I'm not going to do a tune-o-matic because I actually have a bridge ready, so I'm just going to use that. And I'm going to use this. Imagine that I just drew on a bridge and ta-da, there it is. Now I'm going to go and get me a template for the pickups. Basically, drawing a guitar from the front is somewhat very simple. I want to make sure that if I do put it there, the bridge ends there, so I can't put it straight on it. So I'm going to have it here. So the inside line is going to be about there. So the more you do this, the more you're going to actually start having all kinds of different tools at your disposal. As you've noticed, I'm using templates, I'm using guitar parts, and stuff like that to kind of figure out where things are going to land and place. But definitely having templates at your disposal is very handy. Not necessary, but very handy. And again, you don't need templates. You can easily draw out all these things by hand. You can draw out the bridge, which I've done earlier. You can draw out your pickups. You can do everything. You can draw out the headstock design exactly how you want it and so on. And quite frankly, the things to keep in mind when you're drawing stuff like this is, or the most important parts are, getting your scale length correct, getting the point where the neck joins the body correct, or so that you can reach higher frets, getting pickup positions sorted out, getting your headstock sorted out so that there's good, if you're going to use straight string pull, so that there's good straight string pull on there, figure that out. And maybe even do your controls so that you know where those are going to place. I'm probably going to put a volume there. Probably going to do a switch around here. And maybe I'd do another tone somewhere over there, but I like to keep things simple, so I might just do that. Yeah, but once you've got the basics down, that's all you really need. You need the scale length, you need the pickups, bridge, sort those things out, and then just go for it. Design things. Draw out your fret lines, and then you can start designing your inlays if you want crazy inlays and stuff like that. But this is, at its core, the things that you need to do. And yeah, from this point onwards, it's all about just design freedom, being as creative as possible. I mean, granted, if you draw on the fret lines, that does, or if you draw on the frets, then that gives you another point at which you can start designing your inlays and stuff like that on the neck. But mostly for the very core basics, this is where you start. All right, so now we have this guitar shape done. And what you also don't have to, but what does help when designing stuff is draw the guitar from the back as well. So that's what we're going to be doing right now. First and foremost, the center line. So guess what I just did? I just figured out that I hadn't recorded any of me drawing on the back of the guitar, so I've just blabbered on and on and on while drawing the back, but I didn't film any of it. So basically what I did was I traced the outside onto another piece of paper, then just went ahead and did the back. Just to summarize, the back is extremely simple, where you don't need too many things to be drawn out. All you need to figure out is kind of if you want to do carves or heel carves, back cavity, and the placement of the volute. Sure, once again, you can go into massive detail and do your like tuners, and if you have string ferrules, do the string ferrules. Go as full-blown as you want. The main thing is that now I've just shown you kind of the basics of what you need to do and things to keep in mind, but anything further on from here is all a matter of personal taste and whatever creative freedom you want to take. You don't have to use this sort of see-through paper. I've used, like for instance, the easiest thing that I've used is just wallpaper. I've gone to a hardware store and there's always like a bin full of offcuts of wallpaper or on sale discount wallpaper, and just get a bunch of those rolls and draw guitars on them. I've used baking paper as well. Not the greatest, but it gets the job done. And basically whatever is big enough for you to fit your guitar, go ahead and feel free to keep drawing guitars on them. That's always a good way to go. And I hope that this has been somewhat helpful in any shape or form. But hey, I'm gonna take a sip of my coffee, and then we're gonna move on to doing the break angle. So that's gonna be next video. I'm just gonna start filming it straight away from here. And yeah, and I'll see you in the next video.